Awesome. So we are recording the session. Let's get going. So out of the pairs that we've got today, 1, 2, 3, I think there's supposed to be 8, 3, 6, 7, 8. Out of these 8 pairs, 5 of them are hot. At least 5 of these pairs are absolutely hot. So next week is going to, I hope next week is going to be a week filled with action. But before we get into these pairs, let's look at gold because we've been looking at gold occasionally. So here, gold, we're just looking at it because literally nothing has changed. We're still stuck inside of the range. The setup still stands, high time frame setup at least. Our analysis is literally still on here. So we're still chopping inside of the sideways moving market. As long as we're inside of here, sell the high, buy the low. But otherwise, the higher time frame move that we're looking for is basically just because we're at resistance, signified by this resistance trend line here. We've got an ascending structure. At the third touch, we had another deceleration. We've got a break of structure. And since we've got a break of structure to the downside, we're going to be bearish. And obviously, all we're looking for on gold is just for price to retest our nice momentum shift over there. So everything still stands. Everything is, oh, Jesus. Literally exactly the same. I just dropped a bottle. Excuse me. Sorry. Let me just pick it up. Cool. So let's get started with some AUDCAD, guys. Let's get started with AUDCAD, get into the set list of pairs. Yeah. So things are jumping now. Finally, we've got some action. We've got a lot of momentum in the directions. Everything is just beautiful. Next week, I hope is going to be a very good week because, yeah, the pairs are playing out absolutely beautifully. So AUDCAD, if we just have a look at what's going on here on a daily, we've got a descending structure. We've got momentum breaking out of the descending structure. We want to trade in the direction of this momentum. Nonetheless, just come to the most recent price action here. What we've got is obviously we spoke about this momentum here. We've got a deceleration. Obviously, we've been looking because this is an impulse. Our eyes are focused on correction, obviously, because we expect the next impulsive move to follow through on this initial momentum here. So our eyes are focused on some sort of a corrective structure. We managed to isolate the corrective structure. We've got a first touch, second touch there. We've got a third touch at a POI, and we've got some momentum, obviously, moving or rejecting. At least we see some momentum pushing price action away from our POI. So absolutely beautiful signs for us to keep the bullish bias because we see the signs of bias that we've been waiting for the longest of time, however long it has been. Nonetheless, coming to the most recent price action, if we just have a look at what's going on here on a 4-hour, cool. So I used, now that I'm looking, I was just about to say something. Now that I'm looking at what I was about to say, I want to change what I want to say, but then at the same time. So basically why I'm looking at this as an important level of structure here, we'll go up to the daily and I'll show you guys why. But I just saw that, okay, cool. Yes, price action did push down, but we did create a new low and a new lower high and a new lower low. But if we look at this piece, this move here, maybe from a daily, we'll see that there was a small lower low there, or at least there was a level of structure. You guys can see our level of structure. We can see it here on the daily. This low, we can see here on a daily. So basically, this is kind of okay. Let's see how do we chop this English up? How do we chop this English up? Because I really would like to use this level of structure. Why are we using this level of structure? I guess just because we don't. There's no reason technically why this level of structure is more important than this level of structure. I guess maybe all we can say is that we don't want to exercise as much patience as maybe we'd need to exercise if we waited for price to come down to that low over there. So I guess it's just a matter of patience, and that's about it. But technically, yes, there is a level of structure. There is a low that we did break below, and we've broken back above now. And when we left this low, we did leave a young momentum shift there. We're still trading a momentum shift. This momentum shift has been able to break a level of structure. So that's kind of what made it valid. And that's why we're using it. I guess we're just forcing the fact that it aligns with this level of structure. But if we were to argue and argue and argue, there's a break and a retest and whatever, all this nice good stuff. But we just rinse and repeat. It is a momentum shift. It's not the nicest of momentum shifts. But since we are moving, since price action is moving, let me just do this. Move price action to the right, I mean to the left, whatever. Since we are already in some sort of an impulsive phase, all we're doing is waiting for some sort of a corrective structure, obviously that terminates inside of our POI, and then we're good to go on our bullish bias, obviously upside continuation. Everything still screams very much bullish bias. If we do manage to get inside here, maybe let's try and get out here if we can. Excuse me, we hold to the 90% rule of this overall corrective structure up there. So RR is there. I mean, risk reward ratio is there. We've got the momentum. Everything is good. AUDCAD, she's ready. She's ready. AJ, another pair that's absolutely ready. Obviously, you guys can see we're bullish on AUDCAD. We're going to be bearish on AJ. So obviously we're hedging strength here. We're hedging some AUD strength. So no matter which direction AUD decides to play in the course of next week, if AUD is the main mover of all of these AUD based pairs, we're still going to find an entry in some direction. So nonetheless, higher time frame structure, I guess we don't need to speak about. What's more important is the fact that we're inside some sort of a range, right? This being the high of the range, and this being the low of the range, right? So you guys know we always try and look to sell from the high of the range. We look to buy from the low of the range. Reason why we're still trying to sell as much as we broke outside of this range is because we've got characteristics of a downtrend, right? We've got lows, lower highs, lower lows, and then we've entered some sort of a corrective structure. And then you guys can also see here, we broke this descending structure over here. So that's kind of the reasons why we'd rather be bearish in this scenario than slightly bullish. So let's just delete all of the stuff here before we get into the most recent price action. So most recent price action, guys, we've got this ascending structure, right? We've got a first touch, we've got a second touch over here. And obviously price is at the third touch now. At the third touch, we're doing some freaky stuff. So all we're going to do is one thing, wait for price action to give us confirmation because it's there. Everything is 100% where we need it to be. The price, we're even going down to a 1 hour because everything is just fine for now for us to be making decisions. Nonetheless, we are where we want price action to be. Obviously, we see an impulsive move towards this resistance price action. We can do one of two things, right? You guys can see I've got an alert here. This white line here is an alert. So obviously, if price action doesn't form a reversal structure up here and we do break below this resistance up here, because this alert is obviously by this resistance, the level of structure that we've just broken above. If we do break back below the structure, then things are rosy. All we're looking for is a corrective structure to retest our level, and that's done. We're bearish. That's our setup. We're inside of this. We're back inside of our overall corrective structure. We're riding all the way down, not to the 90% rule, but to this support over here, because obviously this is the last place where we saw a lot of buyers coming into the market, being able to break a level of structure over here. So we're not going to ride to the 90% rule. We'll ride to this support over here. But nonetheless, if we break back into structure, obviously this is the patience sort of setup there, because we still need to wait for price action to break back into the structure. But nonetheless, obviously the non-patient setup is we're just waiting for price to give us a reversal structure, whether it's an ascending structure here. We don't know whether it's going to be a double top. We don't know. We don't care. Whatever it is, head and shoulder structure, as long as price gives us a reversal structure at this third touch, it's going to be an entry for us to go short. And obviously, this is going to be the risk entry. Once price action breaks back into structure, and obviously retest, this will be our reduced risk entry. So for AJ, we're 100% bearish. Price is where we need it to be. All we're waiting for now is for the entry, the reversal structure, and we're good to go. AU. So AU, I guess what I'll say about AU is that it's playing out. Unfortunately, I didn't get an entry as much as we've been waiting for the longest of time. But structures, price action has been playing out. Anyway, maybe let's also do this. Let's do this. So what we've been speaking about for forever is this momentum, this corrective structure, and we're expecting momentum to break this corrective structure. But now I feel like price action is doing enough for us to delete all of this stuff on our higher time frames, and then now from now on we're only going to focus on the most recent price action, because I do see we can create or we can isolate a corrective structure here. Nice 3-touch corrective structure, first touch, second touch, we've got a rejection, double bottom, whatever at the third touch, and we see the momentum breaking back above our level of structure. If you guys remember how we've been preaching about this structure, what we've been looking to see, this is exactly what we've been looking to see. So obviously things are simple. Now that we've broken back above our level of structure, we've got momentum. We're waiting for that corrective structure to obviously retest our level of structure and allow us to be in bullish. We're not going to look for RR for this overall big, huge thing that we've been talking about. Let's just be conservative. And then here's 90% rule over here. Otherwise, if we get a deep enough entry, if price action pulls deep enough, then we can just simply target this high over here. We'll get enough RR. If we do get the risk reward ratio that makes the trade worth it, that makes the trade make sense, then we'll take the trade. We don't have to be extra, because you guys know that sometimes when you guys have these ridiculous TPs, price action can come right close next to there and reverse and go all the way back. So we don't want to overshoot it. Like when we're taking a trade, risk reward ratio is a factor. if I'm risking a certain amount and I'm sure that I'm going to get at least 3 times and more for what I'm risking, then the trade still does make sense from a statistical basis, I guess. So we don't need to target as much as we know, okay, we're expecting price to come all the way up here. We don't need to have, like, if I find an entry on a 1 minute, why do I still need to swing all the way up here and get a 1:300 when I can very well guarantee myself a 1:1 whatever inside of here and not bother about all the emotional trauma of the pullbacks and the whatever that might happen inside of this next impulsive move. But nonetheless, let's just continue. Bullish on AU. AU, I guess this is one pair that we might have to exercise some patience on. So I'd say yes, 2 pairs hot, 1 pair not on these AUD-based pairs. But yeah, we're bullish on AU. We're waiting to obviously get this corrective structure. In terms of a point of interest, I don't know if we want to force this POI over here. Can we? Should we? Maybe let's not try and be aggressive and force this POI, but this is a POI. And I don't know if we want to even force this as an ascending structure, but it looks like an ascending structure. But one thing, obviously, if we take into account our price action, we can see resistance was broken, resistance properly treated as support. Now we've got this new resistance that's just been broken above. This is still fairly impulsive price action. It's not corrective price action. So this can't be a corrective structure. As much as maybe we can force it or whatever to maybe see how steep the trend is or whatever, or when price action breaks this low, we might be in a seller's market. We can derive information from it, but as it stands now, this still seems like impulsive price action. So we are still waiting, like we did say when we were looking at the daily, we are still just waiting for a corrective structure that retests a level of, or a POI, obviously, that we can use to find upside momentum. The only very nice POI that I have here that we still got from last week, price action just didn't come back into this POI, was this level of structure here. She just kept on going. So that's kind of why we didn't find an entry bullish on this pair. But it is what it is. We'll get an entry. We'll get an entry. Price action did stall for quite a while inside of here, inside of this price region here. Who's to say now that we're inside of this price region again, that we can't continue to chop and chop and chop and chop, obviously until buyers either take control or sellers take control. But we've seen there's been chop inside of this price region. There's been chop here inside of this price region. Price likes to stall when we get inside of here. So we can find a larger corrective structure. So let's not force things and rush where we can exercise patience. Patience does pay. Let's go on to some New Zealand dollar CAD. So this is another pair that I feel like is going to be a little bit hot because she's playing out absolutely to the T. So just, won't go on the daily because unnecessary, I guess. We've got some momentum over here. Obviously, we've got a somewhat of a break and a retest level of structure there. You can see the price action is still below. So obviously we're expecting that, okay, maybe if this is still a corrective price action, if this is still corrective price action, and we've seen this low price action broke below, broke back above. Here, we broke below, broke back above. Should we expect that, okay, cool, we might break below and break back above because we are in some sort of a corrective structure. Just our own assumptions based off context that we're deriving from what we see. But nonetheless, let's just take into account where we are and what's happening where we are. This is our support trend line. We expect buyers to be at our support trend line. We see some sort of a deceleration there, corrective price action as we're coming down towards where we should see, obviously, a change between the seller's market, and now we obviously expect this to be a buyer's market. If we just have a look at the most recent price action here, we put a trend line on there. And if you remember last week, we said as long as we're below this trend line, let's just be safe. We're still inside our seller's market. And when we break this trend line to the upside, then we can assume we're in a buyer's market. Now we've broken that trend line. We've closed back inside of our structure as well. If we just look at the most recent price action, can we say we've made a new higher high? Let's just double check and make sure. There's our last resistance there that managed to break a support. I do see price action giving us a new higher high. So obviously someone somewhere is willing to buy, or someone somewhere is willing to close profits for all the sells that they've been holding if there's a big seller in this market. So obviously we're seeing what we want to see, where we would like to see it. What we need to wait for now is just for a simple entry criteria. This is an impulsive price action, or we are in an impulsive phase now. All we've got to wait for is just for the corrective structure that retests a point of interest. A point of interest for me right now on a 4-hour would be this. I do feel like I'm forcing it a little bit, but I'm sure on a smaller time frame, there is another momentum shift inside of there. There's that if we're trying to force it. And I guess if we're trying to be extra safe, let's just delete this. There is this POI down here. We do see a bullish engulfing, young bullish engulfing over there. Yeah, but I think what we can do, since we're in an impulsive phase, let's just wait for the structure that does develop. This is momentum. The structure that does develop obviously will give us more context. It might be a 3-touch structure. It might just be break below, and then there's a POI, like we might have a level of structure here, and then our POI is below. We might get additional context, but this is the momentum that we're looking for. Our eyes are now focused on a corrective structure, obviously to continue the momentum to the upside. What we're trying to do on a higher time frame is we're basically trying to trade in the direction of this momentum here that we see on a higher time frame, assuming that this is the corrective structure, and we will see a follow through obviously of this momentum. Let's go. So hot pair, I guess. Let's go on to some NJ. NJ is playing out, but I think we're going to have to exercise some patience on NJ. Since we're going to have to exercise some patience, let's not go down to the 4-hour. Let's just stick here. So basically, we're moving sideways inside all of this nonsense here. NJ is moving sideways, but obviously we're taking into account context, looking at the structures that we get and what's happening in those structures. We've got some momentum here. We've got a corrective structure, first touch, second touch. At the third touch, we see this deceleration, ascending structure of some sort. After the third touch in this ascending structure, we've got momentum managing to give us a new lower low. So obviously we've got characteristics of downtrend happening, We've got a breakup structure there. And we've got some momentum, and we've got a corrective structure. So since we've got characteristics, a new lower low being created, all we're looking for is a lower high to form. Okay, maybe let's just go down to a 4-hour just so I can tell you guys how I plan to exercise patience. So I've got this resistance here, right? I've got this resistance here. Price just broke above this resistance. How I plan to exercise patience is I hope to see market coming a lot higher than retesting this level of structure. I hope we don't retest this level of structure, and I hope we come higher, because I feel like there's going to be a lot better risk to reward ratio, and it gives price action an opportunity to give me a structure with maybe a little bit more context. Like if we get a third touch structure, maybe we create some sort of a resistance, and then I've got the added context that, okay, I've got a third touch that aligns with this POI that we are forcing inside of here, or this previous support that was broken with momentum that we expect price to retest. You see that the higher we go, the better the probabilities for the sell and the more risk reward ratio. So since I don't want to force a small whatever structure inside of here and try and force myself into an opportunity there, let's see if we get a reversal structure, double top, whatever that increases the probabilities in this area. If there's nothing that gives us better probabilities, then let's exercise patience and wait for this POI touch, or wait for price action to come up to this level here. At least we'll know we're high enough and we can take a small enough risk and get good RR. If we make it, if we don't make it, we took the smallest risk that we could have taken inside of this, what we're assuming to be a seller's market right now. So NJ, maybe we'll exercise some patience on this pair. Let's not put a red marker on it because it does require something to happen here for us to be able to enter. Let's go on to some US30. So US30, I think, especially maybe Monday, I am a little bit stuck with US30 right now. I want to be very honest, and I don't want to force structure. I'm a little bit stuck with US30 now. I feel like where it is, especially right now, I don't know if I can find a trading opportunity that will be worth me taking the risk. But otherwise, let's speak about the structure. So on a higher time frame, we've got this momentum here. We've got some characteristics of a downtrend, I guess. But obviously, we've got a higher time frame. We've got this momentum. We're assuming that this is a corrective structure. We can obviously see momentum breaking out of this corrective structure to the upside. Now, if we just look at the most recent price action, remember what I did say. I did say this is characteristics of a downtrend. Remember, this is the last impulsive move that managed to break a level of structure. And as long as we're inside of this, this is still a seller's market, but on a smaller time frame. Can you see the amount of confusion that's going on here? The type of range that we've got, the way the market, or at least the way US30 is giving both buyers and sellers ample opportunity to make money in either direction. How we've been managing is just following the structure ever since. So until structure becomes a little bit more clear, or goes to areas where there's a little bit more probabilities for us to take better entries, or whatever the case is, let's exercise that patience because it does pay. But otherwise, we're still inside a seller's market, but we're inside a buyer's market, but we're inside of a chop. Nonetheless, if we just come to the most recent price action, we've got momentum, right? After this momentum, we've got a corrective structure. We've got more momentum breaking the corrective structure. We can see that we haven't really reached or fulfilled the 90% rule of this overall structure. We haven't really come to the high if we want to assume that this is a range because the corrective structure, this being the high of the corrective structure, this being the low of the corrective structure. If you want to assume this is a range, we still haven't, or we're not at the high of the range yet, or close enough to the high for me to feel comfortable to trade sells as yet. So since we're still like very much inside, yeah, I can go down 4 structures and whatever, find 3 touch structures. But until things become maybe just a little bit more clear, I do feel like I'm forcing this structure specifically. I feel like I'm forcing this structure and I'm just trying to add context that I maybe might not be able to add right now the way this structure looks. So what I'm going to do on US30 is I think next week is going to be 1 week where I'll exercise some patience and just allow US30 to develop. It's not going to be hot. NASDAQ is going to be the hot pair for next week. So let's go to NASDAQ and see what's cooking on there. Why is my network a bit slow? I hope you guys are still good. If you guys can still hear me, let me check in the chats because I see my network is slow, kind of. Okay. My charts are loading now. Cool. Don't draw on the screen, guys. Let me just clear the drawing. Awesome. Let's continue. So otherwise, coming back to NASDAQ. So on NASDAQ, the hype beast, I'm just going to trade the structure. Let me not even say what I think and feel and assume. Let's just talk about the structure. So inside of the structure, right, there's reason for a lot of confusion. But what I would like to do is I'd just like to stick on the most recent price action because I can find a trading opportunity on the sell side of things if I stick to the most recent price action. Let's just look at this nonsense over here before we go to the most recent price action, just so I can show you where this POI comes from. This POI that you guys see me looking at there is just this bearish engulfing. This is the last source of momentum that managed to break this level of structure here, this support over there. There is another one up there, but obviously this is the most recent one. This is the one that is closer to where my price action is. So obviously less patience being exercised in this scenario. So nonetheless, that's the POI that you guys see there, bearish engulfing. That's where I'm looking to trade. Break in a retest area if you guys want to force that as well. But let's look at the most recent price action, right? So most recent price action, we can assume, or I can force an ascending structure out of what's going on here. Because yes, maybe we can argue the most recent price action has been impulsive, but it hasn't always been impulsive, right? It hasn't always been impulsive. We're only seeing every time Google says AI, everyone gets excited and then we buy. That's the only reason all of this is going on here. Nothing else has been good inside of the market. Anyway, coming to the most recent price action, right? If we force this ascending structure and we assume this is a first touch, second touch, and we're at a third touch and we've broken, yes, we've violated the structure, right? We've got momentum to the upside. If we look at what's going on now in the most recent structure, after we've broken out of the structure, right? We don't have any, or let's say this is an uptrend. I was just about to say we don't have any direction. But let's say this is an uptrend, because if we just look at our structure, we've got a high, we've got a low, we've got a higher high, and we've got a higher low, right? So we are creating higher highs and higher lows, but clearly we're doing so in a corrective manner, right? So there is no momentum that's going on. So we broke the structure, and after we broke with momentum, we lost that momentum, right? We lost that momentum. Now I want to be safe. Price action is already here in this area. This is some sort of a resistance. So let's just be safe. Anything can happen from now until we look at the market on Monday morning. So first touch, second touch, here's a third touch region that does align with a momentum shift. That bearish engulfing, that place where I did see sellers coming previously in the past, if price action does do some nonsense and manage to get up here, I do see an opportunity for me to at least try and sell back into the structure. And hopefully this is the beginning of, of the negativity that we so desperately need to see some negativity right now in the market, because or at least we need to see participants reacting to all of the negativity that's in the stock market right now, because there is quite literally nothing positive that's happening in the world, except when anyone says AI, investors get excited. That's the only positive thing that's happening in the world right now. Fed is stuck in the middle of a jam. They're stuck in the middle of a jam, right? You guys saw we've been increasing interest rates. Because of the increase in interest rates, the reason, let's go back to the reason why. We've been increasing interest rates because of inflation. That's the reason why we've been increasing the interest rates. Because the interest rates have been going up, we've been seeing all of the banks going bust, right? Because remember that banks function on the basis of borrowing money and borrowing and lending money. So obviously, the higher the interest rate, the more tougher it is for people to borrow money, for people to put themselves in debt because there's more, they need to pay back more. So banks have been going bust. So no one is liking the fact that interest rates are going up. So now the US government is stuck in a jam. Do we pause interest rates? Do we keep going up to solve inflation and continue to bust the banks, or do we pause and whatever, or do we pause, or do we start dropping now? If we do that, remember that inflation is still, they're stuck inside such a serious situation where all of this bullishness, all of this excitement is not warranted. There's no reason for all of this excitement right now if we look at a purely fundamental, or at least things from a purely fundamental basis. Otherwise, yeah, let's just see if the sell does follow through. Let's just see if the sell does follow through. If we continue to buy, maybe we just continue to exercise patience, or we can find a buy. Since we're assuming this is a range, we wait for price action to come down to this support or the low of the range, and then maybe we try and find a buy from there. But right now, context, where are we? We're at resistance. Where are we coming to? We're coming to a bearish momentum shift. What structure do we have there? We have some sort of a corrective structure. Context of the corrective structure, there's resistance where we can find sell side probability. So yeah, very tough situation that the whole world is in right now. But yeah, let them continue to buy. Maybe this was maybe this was just the last straw to help, I guess, institutions pump enough buyers into this market so that they can start selling. Who would know? Because remember, that's how the market functions. If I need to sell and I need to sell big, I need a big buyer. It's just how it is. CAD. So we'll put a nice tag there on NASDAQ because I want to definitely be looking at NASDAQ next week. So CAD has been the cause or the gift of patience, a lot of patience going on here, but the patience just might be over. You guys can see ascending structure, first touch, second touch. We're at the third touch. We're doing something else that's extremely complex, that's extremely complicated. But if we just look at the higher time frame context, we had an ascending structure, momentum breaking down. Obviously, after this impulse over here, we're expecting a correction. This correction is proving to be somewhat a little bit complex, but we had equal highs. What we're expecting is that price action will break out of the equal highs and then obviously break back below the equal highs. So nonetheless, what I did was I went to go and look for a nice momentum shift to increase our probabilities. Obviously, we want to make decisions where we know the volume has made decisions before, because we don't move the markets. We can't move the markets. Instead, we trade in the direction of the volume. So otherwise, we've got a nice momentum shift over there, bearish engulfing candlestick. We see, for whatever reason, large amount of sellers came in, managed to break a couple of levels of structure. And also, if we look left, there's more. Obviously, there's more reaccumulations, more bearish engulfings, whatever. But that's where some of these big sellers came in. We've got that momentum shift there. Let's go to the most recent price action over here. Most recent price action, we can see that this is the third touch, or we spoke about it over there. At the third touch, we see something really weird going on here. Maybe we're forcing the structure. Maybe we're in the wrong direction, expecting sellers where there are no sellers and there's only buyers. But very weird. So last week, how I had this structure was, this is my first touch. Obviously, this is my second touch. And I was expecting that when price gets to somewhere over here, we'll see a reversal, obviously, for us to continue to the downside. We broke outside, we broke back in. I was expecting that this is going to be a corrective structure. Oh, well, hell no, she didn't play our game. More momentum, or at least more buyers. So we can see there's still someone somewhere in the world that's still willing to buy. But what I do have now, is, yes, I've included, you guys can see, this is my first touch now, and this is my second touch now. I've included this structure over here. But if you take a look at what's going on, right? We broke this resistance, we broke back below. This is a piece of correction. This is a piece of corrective price action. We had momentum, proper trend. We broke resistance. Resistance was treated as support. And then we broke resistance, we broke back below. So we've got one corrective structure going into another corrective structure. So obviously this corrective structure might have its own first touch, its own second touch, and its own third touch. And that's kind of what I'm looking for. That's why I isolated and I was comfortable to include this price action and said that, okay, cool, price action is still, yes, we did see a whole bunch of buyers coming in there, but these buyers didn't last. We went from an impulsive uptrend right into a corrective uptrend. So we're still correcting to the upside. So I can still find that third touch, which might hopefully align obviously with our POI, our nice momentum shift there. And obviously if you get those probabilities, why not? Why not? Maybe let's not be extremely aggressive, 90% rule of this corrective structure, but if we're in there and we get this momentum, we might find another entry to continue all the way to the downside. And then obviously we follow through on this overall bigger structure that we're looking for obviously to play out. And hopefully we break this support because we're expecting this momentum here. That's the momentum that we're trying to trade in the direction of corrective structure. And obviously we should see this momentum follow through, break structure, and create its own leg. We're 100% done. We're 100% done with the analysis. So out of the analysis, 2 pairs there, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So 5 of the 8 pairs are, I guess, a little bit hot because they don't require a lot of patience. The setups are where we want them to be. All we need to do is wait for the market to give us those entry triggers. So let me check what's going on there in the chats. I see something. GU, I don't look at GU. GU is not on the set list of pairs, but I guess GU would be somewhat correlated with AU to some degree, because they both have the dollar as a base pair. To some degree, they might be correlated. But otherwise, I like to stick to my circle of competence, man. You can analyze any pair. You can honestly analyze any pair. Like the process that I do use, you can analyze absolutely anything. But can I promise, can I guarantee with experiential knowledge that price action will follow through using the concepts that I use to, that's not my circle of competence. That's not what I analyze every day. I can't back with experiential knowledge my analysis of that. It would just be basically me just analyzing the pair, and then without back testing, we're just going straight into live trading. These pairs I can back with my own experiential knowledge because I've been looking at these pairs from 2021 until now. We're looking, it's 2023. We've been trading this set list of pairs, well, besides CAD and there was Susian here, this set list of pairs for the past, I don't know, couple of years. So you see the amount of experiential knowledge, the fact that we've been using the exact same processes, exact same everything. We've got experiential knowledge to back up our confidence on how we trade, how we're analyzing, what we're expecting, why we're doing certain things, why we're changing certain things. So I feel like it would be, especially maybe not in terms of going through my process, because I can go through my process on any pair, but in terms of giving you something valuable for you to trade next week, these pairs I feel so much more confident in sharing my analysis with rather than anything else. Let there be peace in the streets. Let our brothers and sisters be safe. Mlizo, thanks for that, dude. Thanks for that, dude. Appreciate you guys taking your time on the Saturday to prepare with us. Otherwise, let's just wait for next week. And then obviously we pull the trigger when the trigger needs to be pulled. Guys, enjoy the rest of your guys' weekend. See you Sunday. Cheers. Hey, Mlizo, what a big smile there, man. I'll see you, man. I'll see you, man. Cheers. Enjoy the weekend, man.